Okay. So for class today, I want to start sitting up. So you could do that sitting on the floor. Or if you wanted to, you could grab like a chair or sit on the sofa if you have one nearby. Most importantly, you just want to get to a place where you can feel really upright through your spine. You don't feel like you're kind of restricted through your hips or through your low back. So once you're in this upright seated position, nice and comfortable, we're going to start with a few breaths, and we'll start just bringing our hands right over our sternum, or one hand if you want to. And we're going to take a few breaths and we'll focus on breathing forward into our hands. So you can inhale and exhale. You can actually feel your sternum moving forward, meeting your hands. And then we're going to go through a few other areas of our ribs, waking up our breathing into a full three-dimensional movement. So the next thing we'll do is bring our arms up so that our pinky fingers and the pinky finger side of our arms are touching. I'm just going to go diagonal like this so you can see. And then I'm going to take a few breaths and I'm going to try to fill up my back, particularly the space in between my shoulder blades. Really trying to feel my shoulder blades moving away from each other as my breath fills up the back of my ribs. Take one more breath there. And then we'll let our arms come down and we're going to go arms out to the side. And then as your arms go to the side, you can think of your side being just a little bit forward rather than straight side where your shoulders are extending. So shoulders in a nice easy position here. And then we'll take a few breaths and we'll imagine our breath moving outward towards our fingertips. So your lungs are moving laterally, opening through the sides of your rib cage. And wider through your thoracic cavity as you inhale. And then we'll bring our arms down and you could put your hands on your legs, your knees, and we're just going to take a couple twists through the spine and we'll continue to breathe here. So we can take a nice breath in, and then as we exhale, we'll look over one shoulder and our eyes can guide the twist in that direction. And then inhaling, coming back through center, and exhaling, looking over the other shoulder. Letting your eyes guide the twist. We'll move back and forth here a few times. One more each side. Great. And then coming back to center, we'll shift into an all fours position. You can come off the chair if you're sitting on a chair. And then in this all fours position, let's find a spot where our hands are just a little bit wider than our pelvis and our knees are a little bit more narrow than our pelvis. And then in this position, we'll take a few cat stretches. So starting rounding our backs up towards the ceiling. And then moving the other direction, bringing your sternum forward through your hands. As you round your back, you can think of your pubic bone and your sternum coming towards each other. And then as you arch your spine, you think of the space between your pubic bone and your sternum lengthening. Track your breath here again as well. So you exhale as you round, and then inhale as you lengthen. A couple more times, letting the movement travel all the way up to your head. And then coming back into a long neutral position with your spine here. We'll take a little bit of side to side curving. So you can think of your ear and the side of your hip curving towards each other on one side, and then lengthening back out through center and curving towards each other the other side. Moving back and forth here. You can feel easy through your spine, your hips sway, upper body sway. And then coming back into center once again, we're going to do one more version of a twist here. So we'll start with reaching one arm out to the side, and then you can thread that hand through the opposite hand and knee, reaching into a twist, and then coming back up, opening your arm back to the side and lowering that hand back down. Move back and forth so we can inhale, and then exhale, bend your elbow, thread through, take a twist, open your arm back out to the side, inhale, and put your hand back down. We'll do that a couple more times. And then 2 hands down. Let's bring our big toes together and our knees apart. And we can shift our hips back towards our heels, taking a child's pose here. And you could keep your arms reaching forward if that feels good. Nice lat stretch. Or you could bring your elbows close to your knees and you can focus more on the sinking of your tailbone towards the space between your heels. And then a couple more breaths here, and let's see if we can feel down into our pelvic floor. So at the base of your pelvis, feeling a sense of expansion, movement downward as you inhale, and then a little bit of drawing up and in, like your sits bones are just slightly narrowing as you exhale. And then let's come up from here and we'll shift around onto our backs. I'm gonna bring my camera down a little bit. Okay, so on your back here, you can start with your knees up, and again, your knees and your feet can be fairly narrow within the width of your pelvis. And then we'll bring our hands to our lower abdomen and we'll start to feel a little bit more engagement in this area to bring some stability to our pelvis and spine. So let's take a couple breaths, and on your out breath, you can think of trying to draw these muscles wide, flattening between your hip bones and feeling affirming. And then as you breathe in, you can focus more on the breath that goes into your ribs so that there isn't so much movement down in your abdomen. And once you feel like you have turned on these lower abdomen muscles, let's go into some marching. So we can breathe in and then we'll breathe out and we'll lift one leg up, simple to tabletop. We'll breathe in there and then we'll breathe out as we put that foot back down. Breathe in and breathe out. Feel your abs, lift your leg up. Breathe in there. And then breathe out and put that foot back down. Let's do one more round nice and slow like that. And then we're just going to keep breathing and we're going to make these marches a little bit faster. So lifting one leg up, down, lifting the other leg up and putting it down. And as we do this, we're trying to keep the pelvis pretty steady. You might go back to the slower version if you feel a lot of tipping side to side in your hips. And then let's bring one leg up and we'll hold it there. And we'll bring the second leg up to meet that leg. So now both legs are 90 degrees. If you feel discomfort in your back, you can always bring your knees closer to your chest. And try to keep that 90-degree angle if it feels okay. And then we'll reach both arms up towards the ceiling here. And you can feel like your shoulder blades are sliding a little bit away from your spine. So they're kind of coming out towards the side of your rib cage. We're just going to hold legs tabletop and we're going to go into some overhead reaches. So you can exhale and bring both arms up and then inhale and bring your hands back towards the ceiling. Exhale, bring both arms up. Inhale, hands back up towards the ceiling. As both arms go up, you're trying not to disconnect from your pelvis. Your ribs stay connected downward. Finding this mobility through your shoulder blades and your arms. One more time like that. And then let's lower both hands back down and we'll one at a time bring your feet back to the floor. Good, give your hips a little wiggle here. We're gonna come back up to tabletop, just making sure that you don't have tension through the front of your legs or your glutes. So again, we'll try to stay in neutral pelvis, so keeping just a little bit of space under your low back, and then finding your lower abdominals here, feeling a contraction down, it's like they're flattening out between your two hip bones, and then lifting your legs again back to tabletop. And from here, we're going to go into a single leg stretch. So we'll just exhale and reach one leg out long on the diagonal, and then inhale, pull your knee back in. Exhale, reach the other leg out long. Inhale, pull your knee back in. It's going to be a little bit more effort for your abdominals if your leg goes closer to the ground. It's going to be a little bit less if your leg goes up towards the ceiling, so you can choose which angle you want to extend your leg on here. And again, we're just looking for that strong connection between your ribs and your pelvis, staying pretty steady, ensure that you don't feel like your back is getting pulled into an arch. Last couple times like this. And then we'll go ahead and set your feet again back down. We're going to do that one more time, but we're going to bring our arms up towards the ceiling. We'll find a little slide of our scapula away from our spine, and then start to reach your arms up on the diagonal. Overhead, going just as far as you can before you start to feel like your back arches away from the floor. And then from here, we'll lift our legs up again to tabletop. And then we're gonna take single leg stretch, but a little bit faster this time. So inhale, exhale. Let's just breathe naturally, nice smooth breaths in and out. Don't worry too much about coordinating with what your legs are doing so specifically. You can continue to feel like the back surface of your rib cage is softening into the floor. Last couple times. And then both legs back to tabletop. And this time let's hug our knees in. And you could just take a little rock over to one hip and to the other hip here. Back and forth a couple times. And then we'll bring 2 feet to the floor and we're gonna do a couple upper abdominal curls. So before we get into that, let's just bring our hands to the place where our femur bones meet our pelvis and feel right around the top of your hip joint here. And just giving yourself a little bit of traction so you can push your leg bones down away from your hip socket, thinking of softening these muscles right in the front of your hips. Breath there. And then go ahead and release your hands. We'll try to keep these muscles nice and soft, and then we'll bring our hands up behind the back of our head. And your elbows can angle to where the ceiling and the wall meet, perhaps, so not straight up towards the ceiling, straight up to the side on the diagonal. And then we'll take a breath in, and you can bring your chin a little closer to your throat. And then you can start to slide your ribs down towards your hip bones. See if you can keep that softness through the front of your hips. We'll breathe in here, and then we'll lower our shoulders and our head back down. Breathing in at the bottom, and then doing that again, sliding the ribs towards the hips. Breathing in, and then lowering shoulders and head back down. As you curl forward, you want to still feel like your deep abdominals are engaging, so there's a sense of sort of flattening inward rather than pushing forward with your stomach muscles. Okay, one more time, just like that. And then you can lower back down, and we'll keep your right hand behind your head, and your left arm can reach up towards the ceiling. And you can bring your right leg up towards the ceiling. And your limbs can be pretty relaxed here. They don't have to be super straight. And then we're going to curl, and we're going to add just a little bit of a twist. And this can all kind of happen simultaneously. So we'll start to bring our chin towards our chest, and then reaching your left hand towards the outside of your right knee and curling up and over. And then coming back to center and lowering back down. I'll take that a few times. And last one. Back to center, and then go ahead and switch legs, switch arms. Nice easy reach up with your limbs. And feel the 2 halves of your pelvis sinking into the floor. And then we'll start nodding our chin. Reaching hand to the outside of your knee, little twist up and over. And we can still take full breath cycles for this, so we'll inhale, exhale to reach, inhale, and then exhale. and lower. Last time. And then lowering all the way back down. We'll rest our arms on our legs. Let's bring our arms out to the side into a big T, and then your feet can separate so they're also a little wider than your hips, maybe as wide as your mat. And then let both knees tip over to one side. If it feels good, you could turn your gaze the other direction. Take a breath here. And then thinking of beginning the movement back up from your core, start to engage around your belly button, bringing your knees towards the ceiling. And then switching nose and knees away from each other, moving the other way. Breathing in and feeling engagement around your core to initiate your knees coming back up. Do a couple more times. And last time, let's move into a twist. And then we'll turn our upper body the same direction as our knees, and we'll roll to our sides and then come all the way up. And we'll make our way back to an all fours position here. And again, your hands can be just a little wider than your pelvis. Knees can be a little more narrow than your pelvis. And then this time in all fours, we're gonna start with some hip extension. So make sure you have some room behind you to stretch your legs out. And then we'll start with one leg, just simply reaching back, floating up away from the floor. And then coming back down, bringing your knee back underneath. Same thing, other side. Reaching out, ending your knee coming back in. Trying to feel your hamstring and glute to lift that back leg. So you can think of your abdominals engaging for a little bit of resistance. And then we'll add the opposite arm, extending forward. And still breathe on your way out, breathe out on your way out, breathe in on your way in. Yes. Good. Last couple times like this. Say the next one, we're gonna stay with one arm forward and one leg back. And then from here, you can try to keep your spine pretty steady, and you can bring your hand and your foot away from your midline, and then pulling back in towards your midline. Your limbs drift out to the side and back to center. Out to the side, back to center. One more time. And then bringing your hand and your knee back down, and we'll switch over to the other side. Reaching hand forward, foot back. And same thing here, reaching away from your midline, coming back to center. Checking with the tops of your shoulders. And then 2 hands down, 2 knees down. And let's go back to child's pose. So again, bring your knees a little wider than your hips. You can sink your hips back. Maybe reaching forward with your arms if that feels good. Or bending your elbows close to your knees and letting your pelvis settle back a little bit more. And then we'll shift forward and we're gonna lower all the way onto our stomach. So if you wanted to, you could come through a little push-up position. I'm gonna actually turn around because it'll be better angle. So you could come through a slow push-up to lower your abdomen to the floor. And then we'll start here with a little bit of upper back extension. So you can bring your hands in line with your ears, a little bit wider to the side. Let your elbows rest on the floor. And then before we start, let's just feel our legs relaxing into the floor, particularly the front of your hips elongating into the floor. And then we'll start by pulling our shoulders back and down a little bit and lifting our sternum forward and up. So trying to mobilize your rib cage, your upper back, staying fairly steady in your low back. Make a breathe here, so you inhale as you rise up, and then exhale as you soften back to the floor. Feeling like your collarbones get a little bit wider as you lift away from the ground. And then let's rise up this time, and you can stay in this lifted position. And then again, leading from your eyes, start to look over to one side. And you could even look up like if you were trying to look back towards that foot a little bit. And then coming back through center, your nose can come a little closer to the floor. And then looking over to the other side, you can feel your shoulder blade pulling back towards the opposite hip as you look over that shoulder. Again, lowering back to center. We'll move back and forth a few times like this. It shouldn't feel stressful in your neck. So if it does, make the movement a little bit smaller. Don't feel like you have to look quite as far around. Let's do once more each side. Great. And then coming back to center, and you could stack your hands underneath your forehead, lower your forehead down for a second. Give your hips a little wiggle. And then we're going to bend our knees and connect our heel bones together. And if your knees aren't already a little wider than your hips, you can bring them a little wider. And then keeping your forehead down, keeping your upper body pretty relaxed, we'll take a couple little hip extensions here. So you can engage the back of your legs, the inside of your legs, and you can start to press the soles of your feet towards the ceiling. And then lowering your knees back down. A couple times like that. And then if this is feeling pretty good and you want to make it a little bit more challenging, we'll add lifting both elbows, your hands, and your forehead. And as you do this, you don't want to feel a lot of grippiness or tension around your low back. So you could think of a little bit more length through the front of your hips. So think of your belly button pulling up a little bit. And then If you would like to, you can add your heels lifting and your upper back lifting together. And then softening everything back down. Last time. And then we'll lengthen our legs back out and we'll push back once more to a child's pose. So if you wanted to, you could practice pushing up from the floor, bringing your hands under your shoulders, and then trying to rise up with your torso all in one piece. And then folding your hips back. And we could do a reaching out with our arms this time in child's pose if you haven't yet today. Take a couple of breaths here. And then let's rotate our palms so that our palms are up towards the ceiling. And you can try as best as possible to keep your thumb on the floor as you lower your head back down. Maybe not to the ground, get a little closer to the floor with your forehead. A slightly different stretch, maybe more through the outsides of your shoulders, up under your armpits. All right, and then let's shift forward and we'll come back to an all fours position once more. We'll start here with our toes tucked under this time. We're gonna take a couple little knee hovers. So you can make sure that your hands are a little bit wider than your pelvis, lots of space around your pec muscles in the front. And we'll start with finding a little slide of our shoulder blades, again, away from our spine. Engaging your serratus muscle. And then we can push down into our toes and lift up our knees, coming into a hover. And then we'll take a nice slow descent back to the floor. We'll do that a couple more times. So breathing in, find your shoulder blades sliding away from your spine, lifting your knees up, hover. And then lowering back down. And try to feel like your elbows are spiraling back towards your knees. You're trying to keep that rotation as you lift up. Nice and easy through your neck. And back down. Great. And then we're going to do one more time. We'll stay up and we're going to add a little bit of rotation through our mid-spine. So you can hover your knees away from the floor. And then just taking a little pivot of your pubic bone to one side and then to the other side. And you'll probably feel how you start to transfer in your feet. So you put a little more pressure into one foot and the other foot. We're taking little steps in place. And even though your upper body is still pretty stable here, like shoulders, neck, head, see if you can find a little bit of ease. Last couple times. And then go ahead and lower your knees back down. And this time we'll sit back and you can just give your wrists a little shake. And then go ahead and shift so that you're laying on one side. You can come all the way down. And you could put a pillow or something under your head here if that's more comfortable, or you can just use your arm. And then you can start with your knees on top of each other, hips on top of each other, and then trying to feel like there's a little bit of lengthening still happening through your spine. So you're not so much curved into the floor, but there's some energy still reaching out. Both through your tailbone, through your head. And then we're going to start here with this top leg just hovering up. It can be in a more parallel position. And then we'll reach out long through your leg. You feel your hamstrings, your glutes active, front of the hip lengthening, quads lifting your knee up, and then folding, bringing your knee back to where it was. So we'll take that a few times, reaching out. We're gonna keep this leg long and we'll reach our top arm up over our head. And then we're gonna add some movement in the arm as well. So as your knee bends, your elbow can bend, and then your arm can reach out and your leg can reach out. You can think of your palm facing the wall behind you. You get this nice spiral through your shoulder blade, through your upper arm bone as you extend. Then we're gonna add some movement in the spine. So we'll flex our elbow and our knee, and we're gonna curve a little bit through the spine. So you can think sternum and pubic bone coming towards each other. And then everything can reach out and you can find a little bit of extension. Arm reaches back, foot reaches back, and back finds a little arch. Let's take a few more times like that. Little flexion and extension. Let's do one more. Little flexion. Good. And then go ahead, come back and lower your limbs back down. We're going to keep that simple, short today. You can push up and flip your head to the other side. A little room below you and above you. And then again, knees on top of each other, and you can find some length through your spine here. And then we'll start with this top leg hovering up. And this movement can really start in your leg by itself. So reach out. And then feeling your hip joint folding, knee coming up and lengthening back out long. So keeping your spine pretty quiet here to start. Particularly making sure that you keep this hip or the side of the pelvis kind of reaching down away from your shoulder. So as you lift your knee, you're not hiking from your hip. And some of these other muscles around the side of your pelvis to work. All right, then let's add some arm movement so you can reach your arm up over your head to start. Making sure that you aren't pushing your back forward to do so. And then elbow and knee bending and reaching back out long. Practice turning that palm towards the wall behind you. And then let's add some flexion and extension. So you can feel like your pubic bone and your sternum come a little closer. And then your pubic bone and your sternum spread away from each other, lengthening the front of your body. Lengthening the back of your body and the front of your body. Last couple times. And then let's lower your limbs back down, and then we'll push back up from here. Let's see how we're doing on time. Okay, perfect. Let's come up to standing. We'll take a little forward fold as we get there though. So just once more, let's come back to all fours. And then you can tuck your toes under, and this time we'll lift our hips up. And you can keep your heels a little bit lifted, and your spine can be long, and we'll kind of work towards sinking the heels towards the floor, but without rounding your back. The downward dog, long, neutral, low back. And when you're ready here, you can walk your hands towards your feet or your feet towards your hands, maybe coming up onto fingertips. And then letting your heels sink into the floor, and try to feel like your pressure is over the middle of your foot here. And then we're gonna push down into the floor, and we'll lengthen our spine forward, and then unfolding from our hips to come up. Okay, then I'm gonna push you back a little bit so you can see more of me. Okay, then we're gonna do a couple things in standing. So just to get the ankles, knees, hips coordinated in standing, we're gonna take a couple squats, little squats. So you can stand with your feet just slightly wider than your pelvis here, and then your toes can angle, not out to the side really, but not super parallel either. An open angle with your hips. And then I know you can't see my head, that's okay. We're gonna just find this folding of the ankles, the knees, and the hips all together. So you can come down. And then standing back up. And let's first clasp our hands in front of our chest here for a moment, just to kind of not worry about our arms too much. I'm gonna turn sideways. So as you go down in this, you're trying to keep your spine long, keeping neutral. So watching that you don't want to tuck your pelvis under, but also trying not to arch your back. This long, neutral spine, supported by your legs. And let your ankles soften in front so your knees are traveling forward over your toes. Good. Last couple times like that. Great. Okay, then I'm gonna actually put this camera up a little bit more. This will work. And then we're going to do a little push-off walking exercise. So you can stand with one leg back, the other leg forward, and you can be sort of in like a walking stance, so you're not super wide. And then we're going to try to push off from this back foot. And as you bring your body over your front foot, I want you to try to feel the whole back of your leg engaged. So you feel your hamstring, your glute, your calf, your foot is supported, the arch of your foot is lifted. You could maybe even pick up your back foot here, no problem. And then we'll shift back onto that back leg. And we'll take that a few times. So you can think of your whole body coming forward over that standing leg, feeling the support up your standing leg, maybe pushing off the back leg. And again, we're not going to think too much about the arms here, just thinking about legs and torso. Watching that you aren't locking the standing knee. So then if you wanted this to be a little bit more challenging, you could rock forward, lift your foot, and then you can hinge over that standing leg. And then coming back up to a more vertical orientation and stepping back. Push off. You want to find a little hinge. Of course, this takes a lot of balance and support through your spine to be able to keep that long neutral position as you hinge forward. Good. Let's do a couple more. And for even a little bit more challenge, you can try to stretch out through that back leg, stretch out through your arms. A little more coordination there. Let's do one more time. Trying not to round your back. Good. All right, and then let's shift so that the other leg is forward. I'm gonna go to the other side. And then starting again, just a walking stance here, pushing off your back foot. You can feel your glute, hamstring, calf, arch of the foot lifted, and then shifting back. And you can do this with your foot on the ground as well. The point is to just get that feeling of connection all the way up your legs, everything co-contracting, working together. One more time, maybe adding the foot lifting. Again, your arms could be wherever is helpful. Maybe arms to the side gives you a little sense of balance. Then we're gonna add this pitching forward, so hinging at the hip, leaning over your front leg, and then coming back up and stepping back. To pitch at the hip, you feel the back of your leg lengthening, muscles along the back of your leg lengthening, and then contracting glute and hamstring to come back up. Good, and if you want to add your arms reaching forward and your leg reaching back, you're welcome to do so. More balance challenge. Let's do one more time. Stepping back. Cool. Okay, so then we're going to do one more ankle exercise that's also related to walking. So I would say let's grab either like a chair or the edge of a sofa, or I'm going to use this footstool. That works pretty well. You could also put your foot up on a wall. You just want to be able to rest your foot up, one leg up on something. So we're just focusing on one ankle only. You also could do this so that you're close to a wall or something that you could put your hand on, because it's a little balance work on one leg. So be careful, use your space to create support. So we're going to start here with bringing one foot forward and then just trying to line up your torso over the standing foot. So you're in one long line, you're trying not to lean forward too much. And then we're going to use this strength through the standing foot, standing calf, and we're just going to push straight up and then trying to slowly lower back down. Pushing straight up and back down. Now as you push up, again checking in that you're not changing your back. Keeping that neutral. Let's try with our arms reaching forward last couple times. Feeling the space between your shoulder blades opening up. Tops of the shoulders easy. One more time. Good. And then let's switch over to the other side. So bring the other foot down. Opposite knee up. Finding that alignment. Be feeling like your ribs move back in space just a little bit. Extended, and then pushing up from there. Relax shoulders. You can always bring your arms down. Last time. All right. And then go ahead and step. You can put your chair or stool away. And then we'll take a little calf stretch here. So you can step. Let's do the first leg that you used to push up on, back. And you can check out that that back heel is parallel to start. And then you can think a little bit about your pelvis here. So your tailbone can drop a little bit down. Your pubic bone can lift a little bit up in front. And then we'll continue that reach through our torso, bringing both arms up. And let's try here to rotate, again, the palms to face the wall behind you. So getting a little bit more of this rotation from under the shoulder blade. Breathing in. If you can feel your arms going up while your neck softens down. And then we'll push up and we'll switch so that the other leg is back. And taking a second there, just finding that reach through your calf. Toes spreading out into the floor. You can also pay attention to the alignment on this front leg, watching that your knee isn't diving in towards your big toe, feeling a little bit of the draw back through that hip. And then you can find a little bit of movement through your pelvis so that your tailbone drops and your pubic bone lifts, bringing a bit more length into your hip flexor, into your psoas. And then we can continue that reach with both arms coming up. And as you feel the outer edges of your arms rise, you can think of the inside of your arms, your neck falling downward. And then we'll reach forward and we'll push off that back foot. You can come to standing with your feet underneath your pelvis, and we're just gonna take a nice easy twist to finish. So letting your arms hang, and just look over one shoulder and the other shoulder. Your arms might naturally kind of swing away from your body. And you can let this twist travel down through your hips, your knees, all the way to your feet. So you feel a little bit of torsion through your feet. Feeling the arch lift and flatten down. Scan the horizon with your eyes, or maybe even close your eyes if that's comfortable. Imagining any tension from your shoulders swinging out through your arms. And then slowly coming back into center. And then pausing there, and we will finish there for today. Thank you.